Okay, I guess I'm live. Hopefully. Hey guys, so welcome to the Cellar Geek podcast. I'm calling these a prelude since we're working out the kinks. Can't see behind the camera, but two of my friends are behind here, helping set
Hi.
up and to drink the wine. Um, the Palm Som is here. There she is. Say hi, Zoe. Say hi. She's down here taking a nap. There you go. Um, Tonight we are drinking Camus Charm Chambertin 2014. I was really lucky. One of my clients, I think it was last week. No, it was right before Christmas, 2 days before Christmas. I did a little house call, and he was really nice and opened up one of these bottles for me. And man, it is drinking perfectly on time. It's drinking great right now. In my opinion, another 3 years, it'll be over the hill and past the peak point. So I have them in my lovely Pinot Noir burgundy glasses, and they are fantastic. I am a big fan of Riedel, and these are Riedel glasses. Maximilian Riedel is a super cool dude. He just got married too. But I have lots of Riedel glasses in my house. And these are the Somme collection. So the burgundy glasses are very large. You can actually fit an entire bottle of wine in this. Believe it or not, I've tried it and it works. And it doesn't get all the way to the rim. It's enough you can still drink it. I have these for the burgundy, and then I also have Bordeaux glasses. Having proper glassware is always a plus with your wines. Not saying that you have to drink them out of proper glasses, but it is a difference in quality for sure. You know, if you're drinking some Boone's Farm, I mean, drinking out of a plastic cup, I mean, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. But if you get a little bit higher quality wines, and this wine is like 50, 60, $75. Camus is incredibly affordable burgundy if you can find it. Plus, I think the label is just super cool. I mean, it's just like a really slick, shiny black label. I think it just looks like some kind of cool cult wine out of Burgundy, France. Um, let's do a little talk about what the channel is going to be about. So, I've had a lot of people over the years tell me that they really enjoy the way I talk about wine, and they think that I should do a podcast or I should talk about what I tell my friends about, like the one looking right over here. Um, and I started seeing other people talk and the way the wine industry has been changing and molding, and the lack of enthusiasm in this younger generation, 20 to 30-year-olds in the wine industry. And so I had this idea that maybe the things that really intrigued me about wines, the things that got me really interested about wine and wanting to study it and learn about it, maybe if I share those things with other people, that maybe it'll spark some kind of interest or joy in the public. So that's kind of the reasoning behind starting this podcast, is just to talk about the things that really interests me, sparks my attention, things that I think is really cool about the wine industry, wine history. Some things that I don't think is talked about as much is cigar and wine as well. I am a cigar advocate. I do smoke cigars, so there will be episodes where I'll be talking about those as well as sake, different canisters of wine, canned wines. I'm not going to go really into non-alcoholic wines, which is becoming a trend this dry January. Obviously, I'm not celebrating dry January. Somebody I really idolize is Karen McNeil. She's one that really got me into wine when I started studying, and I read the Wine Bible. And something that she posted recently that I really agree on is to ditch dry January. The wine industry is hurting enough. Please do not advocate to completely stop drinking a 12th out of the year. It's just, if you want to cut back in general because it's affected your lifestyle, then that's one choice. But to completely cut out, I'm not a fan. I'm not an advocate for it. So I say drink more. Drink more in January. How about everybody just try to counteract all the dry Januaries and drink more during January? I think that might work out, even the scale of it. So those are kind of the things that the podcast is going to be about, and the episodes. So this one and the next one I'm calling are preludes. They're us figuring out the tech and the equipment and the setup and everything because this is all completely new to me. I have not done a podcast before. I'm not a super techie person. I'm still the person that's likes pen and paper and files, and I'm that kind of person. I'm not like everything's on a USB and tidy. No, I books, highlighters, post-its. I'm that kind of person. So for me learning about technology and how to set all this up, I needed a little bit of help with it. So we are going to do this is the first one and the next week is going to be another prelude of me trying to learn from my friends who also does a podcast, how to do it, how to set it up, how to post. And then so hopefully from there I can take the reins and do this on my own in the future. We are planning on doing a weekly hour-long podcast. I'm going to pick a topic and we're going to discuss it. This is live, so feel free to put in comments and whatnot. Ask questions. I will more than likely answer your questions after the episode in a DM, just because I don't want to pull away from you guys and the conversation and the topic to cut to a question. I'll try to pay attention to the stream, but if I don't get to your question, I will get to you in a private message to respond to whatever concerns you might have or a question about wine. Today, I thought I would kind of give you an introduction on me and where I came from and how I started with wine and everything like that. So mine really started out with learning about alcohol in order to make more money in restaurants. So I was a server forever and ever. And around 22, 23 years old is when I started working at a restaurant here in Franklin, Tennessee, nearby called Copeland's. If you've heard of it before, it's a New Orleans style restaurant and it had an extensive bar. And I did not know anything about alcohol at the time. I was young. I didn't really drink alcohol unless it was extremely cheap at some party, and I had tables that asked me questions. And so anytime that I was dead, there was no tables, the bartenders weren't busy, I would go pick their brains about alcohol. I would write down the alcohols, the bourbons, the vodkas, everything. I started to learn that craft a bit. When I left that restaurant, I went to work at a restaurant that was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, called Fuji's Japanese Steakhouse. As you can imagine, it was like a hibachi grill. Hibachi grill, sushi, everything. They did the sake bombs, the Sapporo Ichi. Like it was Ichiban beer. Like it was very much, we catered to a lot of like Japanese companies would come in and eat and dine. So there I got to really learn about sakes and sojus and Japanese culture as far as eating goes because the dining was very much Japanese. It wasn't Americanized. So I got to learn the Japanese dishes and stuff. Really got to teach me a little bit more about culinary skills and a little bit outside of what I was used to. And then from there, I went to a restaurant in Murfreesboro, Tennessee called B. McNeil's. And at the time that I started there, it was a meat and three during the day. If you don't know what a meat and three is, here in the South, it's you choose one meat and three vegetables. So you go to a restaurant and normally it'll change every day during the week and the sides pretty much stay the same, but you'll get stuff like country fried steak or fried chicken, meatloaf, corn pudding, like I mean all kinds of stuff. Very low price, usually around $7, $8 for a plate. So that was the kind of restaurant it was during the day, and then at nighttime, we come and put on white tablecloths, flatware, wine glasses, dimmed the lights, and turned it into an elegant, high-end restaurant with lovely meals. Date night favorite. If you are an OG in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, you remember B. McNeil's because it used to be a date night to go there. It was a special occasion. Anyway, so I started working there when I was about 25 or 26, and, the restaurant was great. I didn't really learn about wines. It was pretty much that's what was on there, and I'm selling it. But what got me was the owner said one day, "So I wanna get rid of all the wines that are in the restaurant to redo the wine list." I thought, "Oh, man, here's my chance. We're gonna get some new stuff in. We're gonna make more money. This is great." And she said, "But we need to sell all the wine." And she had all these bottles in the cellar, like, downstairs that was not on the wine list. They were old bottles. They were wines I'd never heard of before, and I really wanted the new wine list, so I went and I researched those bottles because I knew at that point in time that you have to learn and be knowledgeable in order to go to your tables to sell. If you if you don't know that, then if you're at a table and you don't know an answer, you're you're gonna kill your time, and you're gonna get in the weeds. You're gonna have to go ask somebody else who knows the answer, and that person's probably gonna be busy, so you're gonna have to wait till them not to be busy to be able to find an answer, and so on. So I learned early on in the restaurant industry that I needed to be as knowledgeable as possible to be able to answer all questions at my tables and do what I called was save my steps. So that's what I did. I researched those wines, and when I was researching them, I had so many questions. So many questions. I was like, "So, I don't understand. There's a Chardonnay, that's a white, okay, that makes sense. But there's a Chardonnay in California, and there's a Chardonnay in France, but those are 2 different kinds of Chardonnays, but you're planting the same thing." That made no sense to me. And then I started learning about then it was talking about soil and climate, and these were the reasons why, and then you go deeper than that. You go into winemaking, the wine the winemaker and how they're doing it. Are they racking? Are they fine filtering? Are you aging in oak, new oak, old oak, different kinds of wood? There are all these different variables, possibilities, just went on and on and on with wine, and it was just like I fell into a rabbit hole. It was like, I have to know more. I have to know these answers. So I went out and I bought books and I started reading them and I started studying them. I had so many questions. The book that I started out with was Karen McNeil's Wine Bible, and it really helped me fall in love with wine. If you've never seen the book before, it is similar into the real Bible, as in thickness. It's a very thick book. It is a lot of pages, a lot of information covering all countries, and I read that from cover to back. It was amazing. And what I did personally was at the time, I was barely making enough money to pay my rent. I didn't have a lot of money. So what I would do is I would save up and go to the store and buy like an affordable bottle of wine from the country I was about to read, and then I'd sit at home alone in my apartment, and I would read about that country and drink a wine from that country while I was doing it. And to me, that transported me to that region. I still remember reading about Germany, drinking a German wine, and imagining being able to walk down a gravel road, one side surrounded by vines, vineyards, and there's a little cobblestone cottage with smoke coming out of it. You go down there, open it up, and there's just some dinky, thick wooden tables, a mom and pop place. There's an auntie in the back making this super hearty Indian stew to go with the reasons, and that was pairing, and I could just imagine that in my mind reading this. So it wasn't just a technical book, and wine technical either. There's so many other layers to it. There's sure, you can get into the technicality of it, how it's made, the different varietals, the different clones of the varietals, the grape soil, all that stuff. The things I really found interesting was the countries, the history, the whys, the changing of hands and the families through, chateaus and wineries. Even newer ones that were bought out, like, "What? That got bought for how much money? That's crazy." Looking at the conglomerates now and who they own, is really interesting to me. Knowing about cult labels, maybe somebody who's a winemaker that, the winery they worked at got bought out, maybe they left, and they went off to make another wine label. Or maybe they have so much spare time, they're making some other wine labels on the side. I mean, for example, you have, Joe Wagner, who makes wine, and I just looked up, he makes, like, 5 different labels, which is wild to me. I mean, it's so interesting. So you can really go deep in all of that. The history is pretty cool with wine. There's a lot of it's like the Kardashians, but in medieval days. I mean, it's just crazy. It's so cool. I mean, I think it's cool. So that's kind of the reasoning I'm wanting to do the podcast is to make you guys think it's cool. Um, so okay, going back to the beaten three place and reading about wines, and then I kept studying. Well, the thing with studying wines and tasting the wines that you're buying and reading about the wines is that the book cannot answer you when you have a question. So I'm looking at the book and I have all these questions while I'm reading it. And I started learning that I could drive into Nashville and go to wine tastings guided by the winemakers usually or the owners for about $10, $15 a night. And so I would save up my money, set aside my time. Sometimes I would barely get there and still be in my khakis and shirt from work. Um, the prices were so low for the tastings because they were expecting you to buy the wines, not just show up and taste them and raise your hand like a kid and ask a bunch of questions. But, that's what I did, and I think I got some kind of special pass over time where people thought this girl showing up is asking really interesting questions, and I definitely wasn't asking normal questions other people do, like, "I don't know, do you think this would go well with a meat dish?" And the wine owner goes, "Sure." Or the wine would go well with fish. I was asking them, "Oh, do you do cold fermentation? Do you do punch downs or punch overs?" I'm asking all these really intricate questions to the person that can answer the question, because the books I was reading couldn't answer me back when I had a question. Um, when I did those for so long, for probably about a year or 2, I did those tastings. One of those tastings I went to was a Torbreck wine, and the owner at the time, the founder of Torbreck Wines, was there, and his name is Dave Powell, and he was very interesting character. If you've ever heard about Dave Powell or met him, he is a very brass character. Anyway, he later down the road, I got an email, saying that he was speaking about our conversation, which I was quite short with him about. He said some insulting things towards me, and I set him straight as most Southern women would. We are, sh cut to the point. So, he offered me a job to go work at Torbreck, which I responded, "You're crazy. You're out of your mind. You're on the other side of the world, literally the globe. You're in a different hemisphere. Like, I can't go all the way over there. I don't have the money. I just can't I can't do it. That's crazy. You're crazy." And, I talked to my friends and told them how crazy this guy was for saying this to me. Also, he let me know there was a wait list to even work there, and I was crazy for not going and not doing it. So, I heeded their advice, and I scrimped and I saved for months. I mean, I'm talking about, like, beans out of a can, living by candlelight. I mean, I saved every penny I possibly could. Um, so much so that I got to Australia with $20 in my pocket. That's all the money I had because I was gonna be gone to 3 to 4 months, and to make sure I had an apartment to come back to, because I was all by myself, no parents, at that age, both had passed away, and no brothers, no sisters, nobody to fall back on, nobody to, let me put my stuff in a room in your house and I can come back to it and pick up, that wasn't the scenario I had. I was completely self-sufficient. So I had to prepay all my bills, in advance, so I had a home to come back to when I came back to the States and all my bills. So that's why I only had $30 in my pocket, plus paying for and stuff. But, I was so, so fortunate. I'm so glad that I actually got to go. I learned so much. I worked an entire harvesting season there, met so many amazing people I'm still friends with today. I still talk to today, Instagram messages, emails. Fantastic winemakers, people that weren't winemakers, we were just friends when we were there, and now have their own label, like Riley Hubbard, she started up, Hubbard Wines, Hub Wines, so that's amazing that she did that, and, there's just, like, amazing stuff that happened with those people. They just had great visions and just were great human beings, and it was just really an amazing experience. I cried on the plane when I came back. I was sad to leave. But, that's kind of the idea on maybe why I might know a thing or 2 about wines is I self-studied, so I read books, I studied myself, continue to study. I read all the time on books. I find a wine or I find something I don't have an answer to. I bought a wine not too long ago that was an Armenian wine, and I thought, "Oh, I wanna learn more about this." And I opened up all my wine books, and there was pretty much nothing on Armenian wines. So I had to seek out a book solely written on Armenian wines to learn about them. That's another thing that's amazing about the wine world, is it never ends. You're constantly learning more. You're constantly changing. The wine world's constantly changing. Now there's the wine globe going on for fermentation, which is super cool. You also have things that were old that are becoming new again, just like clothing trends or anything else. For a while there was the hipster age and, like, typewriters were cool again, or using an old Polaroid camera, except they made it look like a new Polaroid camera. The whole idea of a flip phone now is cool again. There's all these trends that come back, and that's the same thing in the wine world as well. There's trends that come back. In the champagne industry, pet nat came back, petulant naturalent, which is really the original way of making champagne. And so that came back around as well. That's not a new way of making it. They brought an old way of making wine back again. They just made it cool because it has bright, vibrant colors, really artistic, cool graphic labels. They're making it to hopefully appeal to the younger generation. Same thing with starting wines with cans and stuff. It's hoping to appeal to the younger generation. Oops, sorry. I hope y'all are drinking something. Greetings from LaGrange, Missouri. Hey, lady. Aw, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate Um, so those are the kind of things that might qualify me for talking a little bit about wines. I worked at a winery, self-studied. I also did take the SOM exam, um, and that was interesting. It was very in a room full of other just as qualified people. I do remember that there was a woman in the room that was pregnant, very pregnant, and we were blind tasting wines or breaking them down, flavor profile, and her palate and nose was off the charts like a supernatural human being. I was so jealous. I mean, she just was hitting that exam at the right point in her life, pregnant with hormones. She just could smell so well. She was picking up on things. We were like, "Is that in there?" Yeah, I think I do smell little boys in there. Yeah, I smell that too. Yeah, a little bit of fresh grass clippings. Yeah, yeah, on the back end. Yeah, I smelled the back end too. We were all jealous of her and the whole we couldn't believe the smell she was making, the taste, everything. It was like Spider-Man was in the room. I mean, she had, like, supervision, could see the legs from across the room. It was amazing. Um, that's the one thing that really remember about that, class was just she seemed like the star of the class just due to medical reasons. It was really amazing. But I finished it, got my pen, and when I came back let's see, I did the restaurants, B. McNeil's. I paused at B. McNeil's working there to go work in Australia. So when I came back to the States, I went back to working at B. McNeil's, except this time I went back as the general manager. So I worked there as a general manager, for a little while, and then I just my now husband made a comment to me, one night that really made me rethink why I was staying there and to really give me the confidence to make a jump to a more refined industry in the food industry. So I made the jump to go apply to restaurants, high-end restaurants in Nashville. Got accepted. Oh, I got accepted to a place called Fisher Company on 12th South. Oh, I was ecstatic. Had a great wine list. I got to learn about oysters and seafood and, what a diver scallop was, and there was an actual chef and a sous chef, I couldn't believe it. It was amazing, it was so cool. You were around other restaurants, so you got, like, you were part of the industry, it was so cool. And probably about 7 months in, they sold. They sold the restaurant, or the property at least, and they shut it down. Now that restaurant was a sister restaurant to Watermark Restaurant, which also I think is no longer a thing in Nashville. It used to be where the show Nashville, filmed at Watermark Restaurant a lot. It was really cool, definitely high end. Um, I was devastated. I recently got one of those, notifications, and it showed that I lost that job right before my birthday. I was devastated. I just take this huge leap of this job I had for, like, 5 years into fine dining and then immediately, like, canned, closed shop. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna pay my bills? I was crying, I was upset, and the next day I woke up with emails and text messages of other places in Nashville, restaurants that were trying to poach me. Not poach me because I was freelance at that point. I had no job. But I had all these people asking for me to please come apply, please come work for us. I couldn't believe they even knew who I was. I just started out in Nashville, it felt like. I've been doing the tastings a lot and meeting people through that, but I felt like I was a nobody. And one of those restaurants that asked me to come work for them was one I actually applied to in the beginning, and they said they didn't have an opening. And that was 360 Bistro in Bellmead, Nashville. That was the last restaurant I ever worked at. So, I went to work there. They have the 2nd largest wine list in all of Middle Tennessee. Blackberry Farms is number 1, which really, like, doesn't count because it's like a resort, um, but it was a dream come true. The wine list is on an iPad, or was, I don't know if it is anymore. Wines everywhere, changing, high end, middle, low end. I mean, so much wine knowledge to be had, and studying all that, learning it, and being able to taste it. People coming in and tasting at the bar, reps and stuff coming in. The restaurant owner was great in that. You had people coming in, bringing in their own wines, and they would let you taste the wine from their own cellars. I mean, I got to taste some really amazing stuff while I worked there. I tasted a 1920s Burgundy, which was not good. Poured down the sink, it turned, it was terrible, but it was so cool that I got to even try it. Great 1960s, 50s Bordeaux, first gross. I mean, I tasted some total bangers while I worked there. So, so gracious with the customers who now are my customers, but we're customers in the restaurant now. But I worked there for a long time, and then I ended it as I was asked by the owner to be general manager server. So I was general manager for a short stint. Left there, didn't wanna work at restaurants anymore. I was like, "I'm done. I'm getting older, standing on my feet all day long, working doubles, like, it's for the birds. I gotta get out of here." So I wanted a desk job. I wanted somewhere I could just sit down and stare at a screen and, like, file papers and just make steady income instead of up and down with tips. So I went and had a meeting, with who was the head of Nashville Wine Auction at the time, and they, um, was Holly Whaley that I met, and she said that she did not have any openings, but she did just finish building out her private wine cellar, and she asked if I would set it up for her, and I thought, "Great, yeah, I'll do that." I went to her house, I set that up, and that really started where I am today with the Cellar Geek. Is now for years and years, I've been setting up people's private wine collections in the greater Nashville area, them in all kinds of aspects, setting them up, consulting on maybe how to build them out, how to change them, how to fix something, what to buy to round out their collection, all sorts of ins and outs of private sellers. And a lot of my clients are people that I met when I worked at that restaurant in Bellmead. Those people who are so gracious to bring in wines and share them with me from their private collections. Now I'm in their homes, and I'm in their cellars, and I'm, handling their wines, and I'm dealing with them on a one-on-one basis, not just in a restaurant. It's pretty remarkable, the years that have gone by, how things have evolved and changed. I still set up wine cellars, I still help people, I have all kinds of clients that I help out all the time, um, and, I don't know if this podcast is maybe for them. They're pretty knowledgeable in wine because they have the collections and they travel the world and they go to the wineries and they talk to the owners and the wineries and they're their friends, and I'm hoping this may help people who are, piqued interest on wine, wondering about it, what's it about? Maybe people who are a bit confused when they go to wine stores, don't know what to shop for, people that may find wine intimidating. Wine is not intimidating people, okay? First off, wine comes in a bladder. You can buy wine out of a bag. You can buy wine out of a can. There's wine in kegs. Wine is not intimidating. Please do not be intimidated by it. It is not intimidating. It's fun. Loving wants you to drink it, wants you to have fun with it, um, memories with it. You didn't have to learn about it to like it. Hopefully, maybe some of these stories and things I teach you about will interest you and will get you interested in wines and maybe to ask some questions, learn about it, taste some different stuff. Get out of the normal range of stuff you might drink and taste and try something else. Mm. Any questions? I don't know, how to work this. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Drinking a Pinot Noir. I am drinking a Pinot Noir. Listening B. McNeil's. Ah, it was a good time. Um, why Australia? So, I don't know what I did to it now. Um, one asked why Australia. So, it was it's not like I had multiple offers from other wineries to go work for them. That was the only offer. It wasn't tossing up France or Italy. It's not something I sought after. It's not I wasn't in a situation where I was looking to work at a winery. It was just an opportunity that presented itself to me. I wasn't even thinking about that at all. Um, it scared me. When I went there, the other people that I was working side by side with, we all lived together, so there was 9 other people in a house, owned by the winery that we rented from them, from our paychecks, and it was called the Renshaw House. A lot of fun times in that house. But there were 9 other people, and everybody was more experienced than me. There were people from California, so they had worked at California wineries. There's one guy from Canada. There was, 3 from France. One was making her own wines, selling them like bulk label. She had a following that bought her wines at whatever country she was in and she was making. And, there were 2 others. One was Gregory Chitty, and Gregory Useglio of Useglio Chateau, like, celebrity sighting when I went there and met him. It was so cool. Um, and then you had, one from, Spain, also, knew about wines, and not just knowledgeable about wines, but they had worked at wineries before. I hadn't worked at a winery before. These people had a resume working at wineries. I did not. I had no experience at all besides reading in books how wines are made. I had to learn everything at that winery from scratch. They had to teach me everything. Um, I had to learn I had to learn cleaning. There's a lot of cleaning in wineries. You have to make sure everything's super sanitized so nothing contaminates the wine. Um, it's funny, you super sanitize everything, but also we fermented in open vats, which is like, a very large tub, a big cement tub, with open air. It wasn't enclosed because when you're making wine, a lot of CO2 comes off, so you have a lot of you're gonna need that to exit into the air. White wines were normally done in a, steel tank, but they had a valve at the top, so, like, the gas could release out of it. Um, in the beginning stages when there was a lot of gas, they just kept the lid open a bit so the gas could escape. But I also learned that the hard way. I went in, we were transferring wine from one still tank to another, which is a process called racking. So we were racking the wines off of what's called the lees, which is the dirty, grungy bits of the grape, vines and the grape juices left over. Sure, you press the wines, the white wines, immediately bring them in, but there's still junk in there. If you squeeze juice out of grapes in your kitchen and you use a strainer, right, so all the big chunks and bits are not in it, and then you leave that juice in a container, let's say for a day, and you come back, you're gonna see a denser layer at the bottom of just bits, and that's called leaves. So they're great for enhancing the flavor of wines, 'cause it pulls that nitty-gritty nutrients and the depth. It's fantastic. But you don't wanna drink it, so you take the clear liquid off of the parts that's solidified at the bottom, basically. Well, I was tasked to go at the top of that ferment tank and look down in it to tell them, "Hey, the levels are getting low. Start looking, put your head in, start looking at it." But I'm staring down the barrel. I'm looking down in the hole. And I start saying, "Whew, you guys, I'm really starting to get really lightheaded. I'm really not feeling so well." And they yelled up, they're like, "Are you looking directly in the tank?" I go, "Yeah, how else am I supposed to see where the levels are?" They're like, "You need to sit down. You inhaled too much CO2, you're getting high." I was like, "What? I'm getting high?" They're like, "You need to sit down." And I was so lightheaded. I had gotten drunk off of the fumes basically, but it was too much CO2 I was inhaling. So that was a lesson learned not to do that. So there were definitely lessons learned working at the winery that was trial and error, for sure. We had 3 winemakers, a head winemaker and 2 assistants, all 3 great guys. All the staff was great, and not just the staff there, but I don't know if other countries are like this. I don't know if other wine regions are like this, but this is what it was like there in the Barossa Valley in Australia, was we were all friends. Our winery was friends with other wineries. They also hired on people called cellar hands, are the ones that come on during harvest to help out, and they were also from other countries and well-rounded and super knowledgeable. You could sit around a campfire and drink wine and get as deep as you want geeking out about wines and actually be able to conversate with someone about it. It was so laid back, it was so lovely, and so we definitely helped each other out with wineries and drinking wine as well. A lot of drinking going on in Australia. They're very good drinkers in Australia for sure. Their livers are super strong. But we would, leave Torbreck, we worked during the day. But a lot of wineries, that you have different processes on different wineries on how you wanna do it, and some of them worked at night. They thought it was best to harvest the grapes at night, dew on it, or during cooler temperature, whatever reasonings behind it. Um, and so you would be driving home from work and pass the winery with the lights still on inside, and we would be like, "Hey, you guys need any help in there?" We had just worked a full 8-hour day, but we were still, happy to help, hop in. It's late night there at that winery, it could be like 6 o'clock at night or something. They got, cheese and meat, some food sitting on a table. "Here, grab a glass, there's some wine hanging out over there. Come help us do a punch down," or we're doing a dig out, we're pumping this or that they're needing help on, and happy to help. Hop in there, and also you get to learn, like, what these other wineries look like, how they operate, um, what their process is like. It's not like a state secret or anything, but it was really interesting to, you make friends and you party and you drink and hang out. I got to go to wineries there that were all natural. I got to see what that process was like with fruit flies and cheesecloth, and the smells were different, the process was different. You had wineries there that were sustainable. It was like half farm. They had, like, pigs and goats on it and stuff. I mean, it was so interesting. So, yeah, if you have never been to a winery during harvest season, I heavily suggest it because tasting the grape juice during the fermentation process, you can only taste it out if you stop by there during fermentation process, which is harvest, and it's so cool. I loved it. I loved being able to taste the wine during the whole process of grapes coming in to bottling the wine. I mean, it was so cool to be able to taste them, halfway, tasting them, it's high in sugar, but you can taste the alcohol coming in. It was very, very interesting. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions going on here? I don't know what I'm clicking or doing. Oh, what's that? Oh, there it is. So nobody else has any questions. If y'all do, always feel free to DM me, ask me questions. This is something new starting out on Instagram, Live and Facebook Live and on the Cellar podcast, not on the Cellar page. So that's something important to me when I started this out was to split those 2 things off because, the Cellar Geek page is for my wine cellars and my wine, um, and then I have the Cellar Geek podcast, which is going to be a weekly hour-long podcast show, and then, Zoe, who's asleep down here, has the Palm Som page, and that's where I post any wine reviews I may have because, I just feel like it's important to separate those things out. They all have their own focus. My Cellar Geek page is really focused on wine cellars and, showing people what I do, the kind of cellars that I'm in, um, the work that I do normally, so is on there. And then the other ones, have their own cause for it, one for tasting, one for podcast, so we'll see how it goes. Hoping to do this, live for now. I think the interaction is good. I always enjoy watching people's lives online. A lot of time I'll click through and I'm, like, in the kitchen or something cooking, and it's like, "Hey, I'm hanging out with this person, they're in the kitchen." And then, also, if you don't have time to watch it live, you can obviously watch it later, or you can listen to it in your car or something, podcast. Audio will be posted after this. The YouTube channel, is up, but I didn't know that there's, like, a waiting period. So, right now it's in a waiting period, so it's not streaming live through the YouTube channel, but it will by next week, and then we'll also post this video on the YouTube page, so you'll be able to go back and click it if you want and everything, and make some really funny comments about how I'm terrible at keeping eye contact with the camera maybe, and my eyes wander everywhere, and, I never say words right, I stutter. Make, boomerangs or jokes or whatever about me talking is fine, so and, yeah, so that's, pretty much it. This was just to give y'all an idea of where my background is and, why I may be qualified to talk about wine and what the podcast is gonna be about, as well. Hope you guys ask tons of questions. If you wanna hear the podcast, maybe something you have a question about or a topic you would like me to approach, please send it to me. I'm open to suggestions, and, I'm doing this not just for me, but for you guys, the viewers. Hopefully, there'll be some and listeners to this. We'll see how this goes. But it will be a weekly show, so, I hope you guys tune in. And, I think that's pretty good for this first prelude. That's 45 minutes. That's, my whole backstory. So, you guys have a great week, and, we will see you next week, Tuesday, 7 PM.